He gets involved with 13 other officers to try to knock out Batista, take him out, and take over the government. Now the plan was to do a military strike, take over the government, martial law, while they do an emergency election, and hand the government back to the civilian authority. That was the plan. Officers involved were all so professional, and they took their oath of office seriously, to the point that conspiracy was called the conspiracy of the pure. No bad marks on them at all. Now she understands that when they're about to make a move that could cost him his life, all this is happening, everything. And she's with him 100%, no questions, nothing. 100%. Why? Because she knew the kind of man he was, and that he would not do anything that was unlawful. He would not do anything that was unlawful. Making a strike like that is lawful because when you take an oath, we all took the oath, we're all military, we all took the oath, to uphold and defend the Constitution. That means that when the government is violating that Constitution, it's actually our duty to knock them out, take them out. So that's what he set out to do. The day before the strike. A couple of the officers involved ratted him out. They ratted him out. So that night, they were all arrested. Every single one. They came in, busted the door, and they arrested each and every one. Cardona, which was the Minister of Justice in Cuba, was also a professor of law in the University of Havana. This man defended my father in his court-martial and basically saved his life. So instead of being shot, they put him in prison in an island called the Isle of Pines, which is south of Cuba. 2 times we went to visit him. First time that I got on a plane, it was a DC-3. Anybody know what DC-3 is? It's an old prop job. First time I got on a plane was to go visit him. First time I ever got on a ship was to go visit him. Now he's in prison. He's sentenced to 6 years in prison. During all this time, Castro is in the mountains. Castro is trying to do his revolution in the mountains. And the population becoming more and more enraged with Batista, and now they're wanting Castro. Anything with Batista, get Batista out of here. So a lot of them are wanting Castro to come in. So Batista's getting a lot of pressure. 1959. 2 years day, Batista gets on a plane, loaded up with cash, and poof, he leaves the country for good. Just leave. When that happens, an order is written, we don't know who or how, but no, the order was written to release my father and the group of officers. And the 2 main ones were my father and another colonel named Barquin. With orders to go and take over the command of the Cuban army. So now, they get on I don't know how they got with probably a plane. They flew to Havana. They go to the equivalent to the Pentagon. The equivalent to the Pentagon. And my dad's still in his striped uniform. And he's being escorted by armed troops. He's walking up these long steps. And I was thinking that day that he said, when I get to the top of those stairs, I may be a dead man. Walks into down the hall, goes into the office of the general of the army. Hand over your weapon. Now this general, remember, is one of Batista's cronies. It's just one guy that was put in there. So the general takes his gun out, hands it to my dad. Now, listen to this. This guy was a Batista guy. My dad knew that the moment that he released him, kill him. So he told his escort, saying, I want you to take this man home safely to his family. Safely to his family. See, so he wanted to make sure that he was protected. Right? So in other words, Papi was not a thug in any way. He was not a thug. He asked for a uniform, so they bring him a uniform. So now he's in charge of the army, and Barquin is and the other guy is somewhere else doing the same thing somewhere else. We don't know that part. General of the Cuban Air Force comes into my dad's office where my dad is now, and he tells my dad, I have a squadron of F-58s loaded. Castro is coming down the Avenida Real, which is the Royal Avenue. It's a long, I wish I would have had a map of Cuba. It's a long island, and there's an avenue that crosses right in the middle of the island from one end to the other. So Castro is coming on that avenue, and a lot of the army units are now joined them. So now they're riding on tanks in the open, right? They're heading to Havana, slowly, yelling and screaming, hey, we're winning, right? And the general of the Air Force tells my dad now, we can take them out in 15 minutes. They're out in the open. Perfect targets. And my dad says to the general, look out the window, what do you see? What are the people yelling? What are the people asking? They're asking for Castro. Who are we to take that away from them? Who are we to take what they want? Castro was actually the one who first got to Havana. Was not Castro, was Che Guevara. Che Guevara and Camilo Cienfuegos, two of the rebel leaders. Che Guevara and Camilo Cienfuegos were the first ones to get to Havana. When they got into Havana, they said, who's in charge? It was my dad. And Barquin, both of them. So they were the ones that were there to allow them to come into Havana. And finally, Castro comes in. He sees that it's a total disaster, a disorganized disaster. He splits the island in two, gives my dad one half of the island, and gives the other guy, Barquin, the other half of the island. And they're to reorganize the Cuban army. They each take a half, and they start going from a military fort to another to reorganize. The way they did it was they would go to a military installation, and they would identify the people that they either know before that were professionals, and they would put them in charge, fire everybody else, put them in charge, right? And delegate authority, and then they would go to the next one. In the meantime, they were making a report of all the things that need to be replaced, equipment, everything else. So then they show up, and this was about 6 months. So then he comes back, this is still 1959. A lot of things happened in 1 year, 1959. So they come back with their mission done, with a report to Castro, tell them we need this, we need this, we need this, radios, we need artillery piece, whatever, everything that they need, munitions. So Castro said, okay, good. I'm going to send both of you to Europe. And that means that Castro was not a communist. He was going to send them to Europe. He was going to send them to China or to Russia. So he sent my dad and this other guy to Europe to buy munitions, equipment, like a Foot Locker, full of cash, millions and millions of dollars in cash. And he took this to Europe, and they went to Spain and Italy and Germany. While they were in Italy, he met an ex-Italian general that actually fought alongside Rommel. It's okay. And he told my dad, you know, it's customary for people in your position to skim off the top a few $1 million. So you got millions. You skim off $3 or $4 million, put it in the bank account, sit back account, forget about it. And my dad said, that ain't my money. It's a Cuban people money. I'm not doing it. I remember mommy telling me this story that she was mad at it. Because she said, he's so honest, I can't stand it. But, of course, that would have changed everything to do on that. But he didn't. And I'm glad he did. Because, you know, he wouldn't have, if he would have done it, he would have never been able to live with himself. He comes back from his mission in Europe, and each one of the Barquin and him bring a ship full of stuff. Each one has a ship full of stuff. I know he mentioned he bought some French artillery pieces. I think he bought some Centurion tanks, munitions, all kinds of stuff. So they come back to Cuba, to Havana. The moment he gets off the ship, one of his colleagues that went to school with him told him, hey, listen, man, while you were gone, first of all, look around. And then he noticed that there's Russian officers amongst them. When he left, there was no such thing. There was no such thing. When he comes back, also, there's Russians, and his friends said, they don't look good, man. They're talking to the Russians. And then he said also, he told him some of the people that he knew were talking bad about him to Castro. The moment that he saw that, he took heed of what his friend told him, and he did the smart thing. He went to the lead. It's normal after duty assignment. I don't see my children for a year, or 6 months. So he takes the lead, goes home, and immediately tells Mom, pack your stuff, you're getting out of here. I'm gonna ship you out. Just so happens that we had a grandmother and a step-granddad that lived in Puerto Rico. It would look normal for us to go to Puerto Rico to visit our grandparents. Also, it was still very early after the revolution. There was a lot of confusion. The left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. So it was a perfect time to ship it up. So we go to Puerto Rico. And that was us three and Mom. And the moment that we get there, she gets on the phone and calls Pave and tells me, we're here. The Pave goes and resigns his commission. Well, you know you don't quit the mafia. And immediately, he's put on the house arrest. Now, listen to this very carefully. And it says, okay, I want you to get a group of people. So one of the officers goes and finds a sergeant and says, Sergeant Gutierrez, get a a detail of 4 men to take this man to his house. He's under house arrest. Remember the name Gallego?
Mm-hmm.
The same man that he was a little private, that had helped him years before, that he was getting abused. He was put in charge of my father's house arrest. That's amazing. That's the hand of God. They go to his house, and this now a sergeant, the little private made some of himself after that. He was sergeant. Now he's charged of the detail to keep him in the house. So of course, he helped him. He still stayed home. Comandante, no, we're going to get you out of here. So the sergeant hands him his 45, 2 extra magazines, and tells my dad, we got to make this look good. Because if don't, I'm going to get shot. So they tied up all the other 4 men. My dad took his weapon, blam! I don't know if you guys know, but back then, you know, in Cuba, we had TV, just like in the United States, TV and J Modern as the United States. So my dad's picture was in the TV, in the newspaper. They wanted him dead or alive. They wanted him actually dead.
They took him and the officers to the prison in Isles of Pines, South Cuba. There, they took all his clothing and they took all his personal items and gave him the uniform for the prison. One of the items that they took from him was a ring that was given to him by the president of Cuba 3 years prior. One of the items, the ring that was taken away from him, the warden, his name was Blanco Rico, was a friend of his. And he put it to the side, put it inside of a desk drawer, and told him that he would try to keep it safe. The ring itself is very unique, has a complete unique story on its own. One of the things that he had to endure at the beginning of his prison term, he was put in on a underground insulated cell, very small, no more than 5 by 5 room, no light, all darkness. And the only access to that room was to the top, where they would drop a bucket with the food and water, and also get rid of all the waste. He stayed there for a month, never seen the light. And he could feel the roaches crawling on him at night. And even though all his life he couldn't stand roaches. So that's sort of the things that he had to go through to endure this part of endure his life. course, he only there 1 month. Once he got out of the cell, he couldn't see for a day and a half because the light blinded him. It was so bad.